I feel more than anything else it's my duty to worry about everybody and their lives in this country, to try to find a way of improving things if I possibly can.
In some ways he was my mirror, in some ways he was my opposite. My beloved brother, my arch-nemesis. How had that happened?
While we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
I like to be a free spirit. Some don't like that, but that's the way I am.
Being royal, it turned out, wasn't all that far from being on stage. Acting was acting, no matter the context.
If your children want to alter society, listen to their reasons and the idealism behind them. Don't crush them with some clever remark straight away.
I cannot lead you into battle. I do not give you laws or administer justice, but I can do something else. I can give you my heart and my devotion to these old islands and to all the peoples of our brotherhood of nations.
I have a woman's instinct, and it's always a good one.
I heard the story of what my father allegedly said to Mummy the day of my birth. Wonderful. Now you've given me an heir and a spare. My work is done. A joke. Presumably. On the other hand, minutes after delivering this bit of high comedy, Pa was said to have gone off to meet with his girlfriend. So many a true word spoken in jest.
I believe passionately that everyone has a particular God-given ability.
It's worth remembering that it is often the small steps, not the giant leaps, that bring about the most lasting change.
Anywhere I see suffering, that is where I want to be, doing what I can.
My family had declared me a nullity. The spare. I didn't complain about it, but I didn't need to dwell on it either. Far better, in my mind, not to think about certain facts, such as the cardinal rule for royal travel. Pa and William could never be on the same flight together, because there must be no chance of the first and second in line to the throne being wiped out. But no one gave a damn whom I traveled with. The spare could always be spared.
As long as I do not take myself too seriously, I should not be too badly off.
Often a child's helplessness and vulnerability bring out the best in us.
Hugs can do great amounts of good, especially for children.
The heir and the spare, there was no judgment about it, but also no ambiguity. I was the shadow, the support, the plan B. I was brought into the world in case something happened to Willie. I was summoned to provide backup, distraction, diversion, and, if necessary, a spare part. Kidney, perhaps. Blood transfusion. Speck of bone marrow. This was all made explicitly clear to me from the start of life's journey and regularly reinforced thereafter.
I've had this extraordinary feeling for years and years, ever since I can remember really, of wanting to heal and make things better.
Everyone is our neighbor, no matter what race, creed, or color.
Being a princess isn't all it's cracked up to be.
I love my mother country, and I love my family, and I always will. I just wish, at the second darkest moment of my life, they'd been there for me too. And I believe they'll look back one day and wish they had too.
Queen Elizabeth's was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing.
When peace comes, remember it will be for us, the children of today, to make the world of tomorrow a better and happier place.
I'd like to be a queen in people's hearts, but I don't see myself being queen of this country.
It wasn't that she felt no emotions. On the contrary, I always thought that Granny experienced all the normal human emotions. She just knew better than the rest of us mortals how to control them.
As human beings, we suffer from an innate tendency to jump to conclusions, to judge people too quickly, and to pronounce them failures or heroes without due consideration of the actual facts and ideals of the period.
It has always been easy to hate and destroy. To build and to cherish is much more difficult.
It's vital that the monarchy keeps in touch with the people. It's what I try and do.
He assured me that people do stupid things, say stupid things, but it doesn't need to be their intrinsic nature. I was showing my true nature, he said, by seeking to atone, seeking absolution.
You don't want to see me all the time. You get bored.
You've all seen pictures of the Earth taken from space. Unlike all the other planets in the solar system, Earth shimmers green and blue in the sunlight and looks a very pleasant place to live.
I knew what my job was. It was to go out and meet the people and love them.
Is each generation doomed to unwittingly repeat the sins of the last?
The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of the greatest sadness for me and all members of my family. We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother.
I'm reminded of a lady of about my age who was asked by an earnest little granddaughter the other day, "Granny, can you remember the Stone Age?" Whilst that may be going a bit far, the older generation are able to give a sense of context as well as the wisdom of experience, which can be invaluable.
I don't want expensive gifts. I don't want to be bought. I have everything I want. I just want someone to be there for me, to make me feel safe and secure.
I recall one headline, addressed pointedly at Granny, "Show us you care." How rich, coming from the same fiends who cared so much about Mummy that they chased her into a tunnel from which she never emerged.
She made sacrifices for duty. Our dedication and devotion was sovereign, never wavered, through times of change and progress, through times of joy and celebration, and through times of sadness and loss.
People are touched by events which have their roots far across the world.
If you find someone you love in your life, then hang on to that love.
It occurred to me then that identity is a hierarchy. We are primarily one thing, and then we're primarily another, and then another, and so on, until death in succession. Each new identity assumes the throne of self, but takes us further from our original self, perhaps our core self, the child. Yes, evolution, maturation, the path towards wisdom. It's all natural and healthy, but there's a purity to childhood, which is diluted with each iteration.
In her life of service, we saw that abiding love of tradition, together with that fearless embrace of progress, which makes us great as a nation. The affection, admiration, and respect she inspired became the hallmark of her reign.
For every poppy a life, and a reminder of the grief of loved ones left behind.
The day I walked down the aisle at St. Paul's Cathedral, I felt that my personality was taken away from me, and I was taken over by the royal machine.
In this mixed-up world, this pain-filled life, we'd done it. We'd managed to find each other.
And, as every member of my family can testify, she combined these qualities with warmth, humour, and an unerring ability always to see the best in people.
The wartime generation, my generation, is resilient.
A mother's arms are more comforting than anyone else's.
Weddings were joyous occasions, sure, but they were also low-key funerals, because after saying their vows, people tended to disappear.
Grandparenthood is a unique moment in anyone's life, as countless kind people have told me in recent months, so I am enormously proud and happy to be a grandfather for the first time, and we are eagerly looking forward to seeing the baby in the near future.
It is through this lens of history that we should view the conflicts of today, and so give us hope for tomorrow. When life seems hard, the courageous do not lie down and accept defeat. Instead, they are all the more determined to struggle for a better future.
He was, I realize now, one of the most truthful people I've ever known, and he knew a secret about truth that many people are unwilling to accept. It's usually painful. No one had an answer for a boy actually seeking external pain to match his internal.
I will fight for my children on any level so they can reach their potential as human beings and in their public duties. I live for my sons. I would be lost without them. I want my boys to have an understanding of people's emotions, their insecurities, people's distress, and their hopes and dreams.
I missed my grandmother every day. I missed her vitality, her interest in the lives of others, her courage and determination, her perceptive wisdom, her calm in the face of all difficulties, her steadfast belief in the British people, and above all her unstoppable sense of mischievous humour.
Study, concentration, requires an alliance with the mind, and in my teen years I was waging all-out war with mine. Maybe she was omnipresent for the very same reason that she was indescribable, because she was light, pure and radiant light. And how can you really describe light? Even Einstein struggled with that one.
Although we are capable of great acts of kindness, history teaches us that we sometimes need saving from ourselves, from our recklessness or our greed. In times of doubt and anxiety, the attitudes people show in their daily lives, in their homes, and in their work are of supreme importance.
Family is the most important thing in the world. Any sane person would have left long ago, but I cannot. I have my sons. I think like any marriage, especially when you've had divorced parents like myself, you want to try even harder to make it work. What must it be like for a little boy to read that Daddy never loved Mummy?
I think we'd be very foolish to expect that we can just import everything from somewhere else and imagine that that's going to last forever and ever and ever. If you think about your and my grandchildren, this is what really worries me. I don't want them, if I'm still alive by then, to say, "Why didn't you do something about it when you could have done?"
Even for an occasional practitioner of magical thinking like me, however, some realities just can't be changed. The public was horrified. If journalists could use the mighty powers vested in them for evil, then democracy was in sorry shape. Willie. Africa was his thing, he said. Besides, I wasn't crying because I believed my mother was in that hole. Or in that coffin. I promised myself I'd never believe that, no matter what anyone said. No, I was crying at the mere idea. It would just be so unbelievably tragic, I thought, if it was actually true.
We may hold different points of view, but it is in times of stress and difficulty that we most need to remember that we have much more in common than there is dividing us. Our modern world places such heavy demands on our time and attention that the need to remember our responsibilities to others is greater than ever. I know just how much I rely on my own faith to guide me through the good times and the bad. The birth of a baby brings great happiness, but then the business of growing up begins.
There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. I should never have played with fire, and I did, and I got very burned. So many people supported me through my public life, and I will never forget them. You can't comfort the afflicted with afflicting the comfortable. Everyone needs to be valued. Everyone has the potential to give something back.
I'd already frozen my penis. Mate, wasn't that the very definition of worst-case scenario? Grief is a thing best shared. The king lived here, you say? Really? I stood in one tiny room with loud furniture and shag carpet and thought, the king's interior designer must have been on acid. Even working a crowd, you always kept a discreet distance between yourself and them. Distance was right, distance was safe, distance was survival. Distance was an essential bit of being royal. No less than standing on the balcony, waving to the crowds outside Buckingham Palace, your family all around.
I believe that, young or old, we have as much to look forward to with confidence and hope as we have to look back on with pride. Perhaps we make too much of what is wrong and too little of what is right. The trouble with gloom is that it feeds upon itself, and depression causes more depression. Though we each lead different lives, the experience of growing older and the joys and emotions which it brings are familiar to us all. By being willing to put past differences behind us and move forward together, we honor the freedom and democracy once won for us at so great a cost. With age has come experience, and that can be a virtue if it is sensibly used.
Isn't defending each other the first rule of every family? The fonder the memory, the deeper the ache. saying Meg had gone into labor. I had a tiff with Sarah about that. You know, she's not in labor anymore, I said. She explained that the press must be given the dramatic, suspenseful story they demanded. But it's not true, I said. Truth didn't matter. Keeping people tuned to the show, that was the thing. I cannot fathom it, Wales. We're talking about your blood relatives. Does that mean nothing to you? Less than nothing, sir.
I lead from the heart, not the head. Only do what your heart tells you. Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward, safe in the knowledge that one day someone might do the same for you. Every one of us needs to show how much we care for each other, and in the process, care for ourselves. I want to walk into a room, be it a hospital for the dying or a hospital for the sick children, and feel that I am needed. HIV does not make people dangerous to know, so you can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it. I want to do, not just to be. I know that I can give love for a minute, for half an hour, for a day, for a month, but I can give. I'm very happy to do that. I want to do that.
The path, of course, is not always smooth, and may at times this year have felt quite bumpy, but small steps can make a world of difference. We know the reward is peace on earth, goodwill toward men, but we cannot win it without determination and concerted effort. Such a blend of traditions serves to make us stronger, individually and collectively, by providing the ingredients needed for social, political, and economic resilience. Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception.
I touch people. I think everyone needs that. Placing a hand on a friend's face means making contact. It took a long time to understand why people were so interested in me. I'm aware that people I have loved and have died and are in the spirit world looking after me. Don't call me an icon. I'm just a mother trying to help. Call me Diana, not Princess Diana. Life is just a journey.
It has perhaps always been the case that the waging of peace is the hardest form of leadership of all. The upward course of a nation's history is due, in the long run, to the soundness of heart of its average men and women. Even when your life seems most monotonous, what you do is always of real value and importance to your fellow men. I can never wear beige because nobody will know who I am.
Nothing brings me more happiness than trying to help the most vulnerable people in society. It is a goal and an essential part of my life, a kind of destiny. They say it is better to be poor and happy than rich and miserable, but how about a compromise like moderately rich and just moody? People think that at the end of the day a man is the only answer. Actually, a fulfilling job is better for me. The greatest problem in the world today is intolerance. Everyone is so intolerant of each other. When you are happy, you can forgive a great deal.